January 24th through 28th, 2022 is News Literacy Week. That is a week recognized every year to help break down the barriers between the news media and you, the consumer.
Yeah, WMAR 2 News and our parent company Scripps is proud to team up with the News Literacy Project, providing educational resources to schools and encouraging young minds to become journalists. You know, with so much misinformation out there, it's important for you to be an active consumer of news. So
this year, we are taking a step back. A big step back. We've dug through the archives and uncovered a 1974 documentary created here at WMAR called So You Want to Get Into Television. It's an inside look from decades ago, a kind of a history lesson, if you will, on how TV was made in the 70s.
I work with some of these people, and while the technology and the people have changed, the passion for telling your story has not.
Governor Mandel signs 300 pieces of legislation into law today in Annapolis. Complete details on Channel 2's News Watch at 11, where all the news is on us. So, you want to get into television. Well, it certainly is a very, very interesting job, as you might suspect, and perhaps you think it's a glamorous one as well. And we'd be the last to deny that there is a certain amount of glamour connected with it. But don't kid yourself, there's also a tremendous amount of hard work and a lot of competition. Our schools of journalism in this country, for instance, graduate about 16,000 students each and every year. And obviously, our industry cannot grow fast enough to accommodate all of them as employees. So, as in other fields, the cream of the crop gets skimmed. You have to be good, you have to be patient, and to a degree, I guess, you have to be lucky. Now, when you're thinking in terms of watching television, you're probably thinking in terms of the people that you see on the screen, the regular performers. That's only natural. Behind all of those people, however, there are literally hundreds of people who have interesting, fascinating jobs, and without them, there simply would be no television. You're going to meet them, hear about their jobs from them as we move along. But first of all, let's begin with our regular reporters and ask them to tell you how they feel about their job of reporting the news.
The newsman has but one job: to inform his audience, to inform the public. It's his job to investigate, to dig, to find out things so he can put a good story together and better inform the public. If after a newscast the public feels better informed so they can make up their own minds one way or another, then I've done a good job. That's the way everyone should work in the news business, to better inform and let the public make up their own minds.
Susan?
Yes, George.
You normally do feature stories, correct?
That's right.
What distinguishes your stories from other news stories?
Well, they're kind of the special events that happen throughout the...
Susan, Jean wants to know if you can cover this cleanup campaign tomorrow morning.
There's no way, Karen. Tell Jean that I am completely involved with Preakness Festival Week this week, and everything's tied up. I mean, I'm committed for every day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We were talking about features, and that's what I'm doing this week, are features on Preakness Festival Week. As you know, or may not know, all week long we have things happening in downtown Baltimore, and it's kind of my thing because I'm interested in doing things that show a positive look on what's happening throughout the city and the state. It's fun to cover these kind of events, and I think it gives our viewers a look at what is happening on the positive side of the news. There's a lot of good things happening out there, and I really have fun covering them. So it's more of a fun event for me every day than it is for a job. Every day I say, they're really paying me to do this. I love it, and I hope the viewers get something out of it.
Andy?
Yeah.
Can I talk with you for a minute?
Sure.
What have been some of the most interesting or unusual stories you've ever covered in your career?
Oh, well, I went ice skating once with Peggy Fleming. Kind of enjoyed that. I covered Hubert Humphrey when he was in town on the same day that George Wallace was shot here. I covered, been to Washington a couple of times to talk to our delegation there. I kind of enjoy that. Washington is a different territory, and I like to do different stories. I particularly like to do features.
Why features?
Well, with features, you really can kind of put more of yourself into it or do them differently from the way you think other people would. When you're covering a plane crash or a bank robbery or something, there's really only one way. There's a formula way to do it. But when you cover a feature, it really is whatever you choose to make it. And if you can bring some imagination or some good writing to it, that's where you can apply them.
Jackie, you've taught English at Morgan State College for 3 years, and you've also been very active in the community during those years. Could you give us an idea how this has helped you in your reporting career?
I think the experience at Morgan has been extremely valuable in the sense that it has taught me the communication skills, the ability to question, to organize material, to think quickly, because that's important. It's a major part of a reporter's job is to get those questions to the person being interviewed and hopefully to get the quality of answers that you want. In terms of my communications or community activities, it has taught me the human relations skills, and that's also valuable in the sense that you meet all kinds of people from every walk of life, and to be able to approach them in a manner that gives you, again, the quality of information that you want. These two areas have been of great benefit to me, even though there are many, many other aspects of reporting that I have learned as I've gotten into my job.
We'll be hearing from some other members of our Newswatch team a little bit later on in the program, but right now let's get to that behind-the-scenes peek at some of the people who have a very direct hand in the production of a television program.
That should be no problem
all right,
at all.
Flash will be here, and he'll have a portable camera. And then if you get, as soon as you get through, give me a call if you will, because I think there's something over at Alton's place we need, and I don't know whether we can have it or not, but I'll find out by then.
Will do.
Gene, you're the assignment editor here at WMAR. Can you give me an idea what your responsibilities are?
The responsibilities of the assignment editor, George, are basically to assign reporters and or cameramen to the various news stories, which begins, of course, with deciding what the news stories of that day are going to be. You have so many people, so many cameras, so many cameramen. On some days there's too much, there's more than you can do, so you have to make a selection among the various stories. On some days there's really nothing moving at all, and on those days we have to be more creative, perhaps dig a little deeper. It affords us an opportunity to get to maybe the root causes of a story we might have reported earlier that wasn't perhaps explained as fully as it could have been. It gives us a day to anticipate what might be coming up. But on the average, there are 5 or 6 stories in a day which are worth reporting, and we try to get people to them in time and get them back in time for the air show. There's no use getting a good story if you get back too late or the film doesn't work. So the assignment editor has to also be concerned with the capability of equipment, making sure that it's in proper working order, and making sure if it's not, those people who control such things can get it fixed. There's a multitude of problems that occur in a typical day, and the assignment editor's job basically is to make the news department work every day.
Being a cameraman in the market area like WMAR TV, you have to be your own grip, electrician, sound man, you name it, you do it. The thing that is most important about what you do is that you are the other half of the reporting team. You create the visuals to help a reporter tell the story. He makes the words. In order to become a cameraman, there's various and sundry ways. There's some of us who sort of lucked into it, others who have gone through school, and some who have gone through trade schools. Most people nowadays, you can go to college courses. When I was in school, there wasn't very many except out in California and a few in New York. Now I went through the Army and got training there. I was an instructor, in fact. But I would think if anybody that was interested in becoming a motion picture cameraman for television, it would be best to take journalism courses, photography courses in college, and then go out summer apprentice at some television station like WMAR.
Stand by, 2 minutes. I'm the director, and this is my environment, the control room. In just a few moments, we'll be producing a news program. It's my job as director to coordinate tapes, slides, films, cameras, talent into a half-hour, polished, finished news show. When I began in this business, there were no educational facilities that taught television. You couldn't go to a university and learn television technique programming. Radio, yes, but not TV. Such is not the case now. It's quite different. If you're interested in a career in television, many universities such as Syracuse, University of Missouri, and so forth offer extensive programs in television production techniques for director, floor director, talent, and engineering. It's a very worthwhile and rewarding career. If you think you might be interested, look into it. I think you might like it. 1 minute.
The technician has numerous duties to perform, such as running the audio board, switching, switching between cameras, operating the television cameras in the studio or on a remote, operating master control technical equipment, operating in the videotape room, and operating the film cameras, or film projectors rather, in the film room, loading and slides and films in the film room. Another major duty of the technicians is to operate the transmitter. The transmitter operation requires a first-class radio telephone ticket. Most technicians, or all the technicians, must have a first-class radio telephone license in order to be eligible to operate the transmitter. And in addition to operating all this equipment, the technician must be able to repair and maintain this equipment. And this requires something beyond the normal 12 years of school, including high school, such as a 2-year post-high school course, which would give them the equivalent of an AA degree.
Production assistant job is mainly classified as studio work. We're the men behind the scenes. We are more or less a jack of all trades in the studio. We handle the flooring, the lighting, the slides at night, super slides, making them from scratch. That's the name, super across people who are on film. We handle all the remote lighting and all the props. Basically, like I said, anybody needs anything in the studio, we're their men. You just call on us. To get into something like this, like I did, I was lucky enough to go to an elementary school. It had a very big auditorium and a very big lighting system. Then I went to a junior high with even a bigger lighting system, and they had a drama program. Then I went to Patterson High School, and at Patterson, that's in those days, they had the best lighting system and they had the best drama courses and also backstage teaching. It's something that started out with me as a hobby, and it just grew into something that I really liked and wanted to make my living out of. I came to WMAR 8 years ago. I applied, and I was called up and asked if I'd like a job. When I came to this station, things were a lot different, quite different, because in those days, you could come in, if you had good experience, a good background, you could get a job. But nowadays, they're asking for at least a junior college degree and the kind of work we're doing. And with a college degree, it's even better.
Hi, most of you would probably like to know what a television artist does that makes him any different from a regular artist. Well, most of our artwork winds up in the form of 35mm slides, and this is how our artwork gets on the air. When we do artwork, we mainly do it for things that the station is promoting, the station is using for program material, or for clients that, like public service agencies or local commercial accounts that don't have an art staff of their own. This is a promotional slide that is used for a station identification. We do also do things like for public service. This is a SECHA ad, and this is the type of artwork that is used and put under the camera and photographed to make the slide. The art department also does a lot of black and white type newspaper ads, TV guide ads, and ads for different print publications. We also do these studio set designs. We've done the sets for Professor Cool, the news, all the local shows that require some type of studio setting as a background, and the art department is involved in designing the sets and supervising their construction and the colors, the whole preparation of the set for the local program. Most of the artists that work here at Channel 2 have had 4 years of college in an art-related type school. Some had experience in display, while others had it in graphic design or industrial design. Most of the people here have had 2 or 3 years experience in the trade, either in the print media or through an advertising agency, so they have a little bit of background into the practical experience before they came to Channel 2 and started working on television artwork. It's a very rewarding field, and it's a somewhat specialized field in that there's special restrictions for television artists that are a little bit different from regular artists. You have to worry about black and white, you have to worry about color, you have to know photography, construction of sets. So it's a multifaceted field, but it's a lot of fun.
Perhaps you've never thought of it this way, but commercial television is very definitely a business. And like any business, it needs good, sound management, a good, aggressive sales force, and good, sharp promotion.
As George said, television is also a business, and my part of that business is, as program director, to try to coordinate the programming ideas come in from all the different sources to us, whether it's letters from a viewer, programs from the network, suggestions from members of the staff on ideas they have for creation of local programming, programs offered for sale by syndicators. All of these come across my desk in some form or another, and after being evaluated by myself and the other members of the management team, end up either being rejected or put on the air in one fashion or another. We have just really three sources of programs, as I mentioned: the network, those that we purchase, and the ones that are created locally. And I might mention the bulk of what we create locally is the news. For someone considering getting into the management side of this business, I would very strongly suggest a full 4-year college experience at a liberal arts school, with probably a major in business administration being the most valuable. I started out in radio in Baltimore, radio sales actually, and used that as a stepping stone to getting into television sales. From then on, I've served in a variety of capacities here at the station until reaching this desk as program director. Sales is the best way to learn the most about the broadcasting business, the quickest. And I imagine a survey of top management of television stations across this country would find that most of the people in top management have a sales background.
In commercial television, there would definitely be a sales department. Can you give us an idea what a television sales department does?
Yes, there is a sales department which involves the commercials that people see at home, within and in between the programs that they enjoy watching. We start off with a product, which is programming, things that people like to see, and we try to show merchants, retailers, businessmen, how their goods and services can be sold through the use of the television medium. It's difficult to sit at home and watch a commercial and understand exactly how it works, but what we are trying to do is to tell you of goods and services available at various merchants that will enable you to make better buying decisions. The programming of a television station then becomes quite important, because without good programming, which the CBS network, I'm happy to say, provides us with, we couldn't entice you to go into a merchant's store. We in turn tell the merchants what they are getting in terms of audience with the programs that we have, and they make their decision on where they would like their commercials to run. And their commercials are really just to get people in the store or people to use their services. We can't have good programs or programs with a lot of people watching unless we have proper promotion of these programs. So promotion becomes as important to us as sales is in another vein.
Well, as you've just heard from our sales manager, Ren Corley, the promotion publicity department of WMAR TV works very closely with sales in providing them with the actual tools to go out and sell program information, times that programs are on, contents of programs, and rating facts, market facts, pretty much the works. However, we work in other areas. There's publicity, which is a follow-through with press releases to the local press, to all of our area newspapers. It's, in a sense, emotional involvement. We have to generate an audience, get people who are viewing to watch us and potential viewers to watch us. Actually communicating facts, letting people know programming as it appears on WMAR TV Channel 2. Now, in the area of newspapers, for example, creating ads that we would schedule. For example, this one inviting you to watch Newswatch 2, in this sense showing our entire news team, family, giving you time and days. This is generally promotion, to keep everyone involved aware of what WMAR TV is doing, what we're doing for our audience in programming, and also keeping you folks out there aware of what we're doing in the area of community involvement.
Kurt, you're traffic manager at WMAR. Give us an idea of what that really means. What is a traffic manager?
Traffic manager basically controls the spots bought into our inventory. It means seeing that every spot schedule brought in by a salesman runs properly in its proper program, and this means that we have to take care in servicing these salesmen so that they can best service their advertisers. A traffic manager has to know the station fairly well with respect to their policies, the NAB code, FCC rules and regulations, and it's not really an easy job. It takes a lot of care, and it also means that you have to be concerned about every single advertiser we have on the air. When I got into the broadcasting business, I had to start out at the bottom. I started out in the mail room. I worked the switchboard. I worked as a guard at the station. I got into film assembly, which is taking care of all the films that come in from the advertisers. And then I finally moved into traffic. From traffic, I took a little break and came in and worked with the computers. And then I went back into traffic as a traffic manager.
Now let's get back to some of our regular Newswatch reporters and get some more of their ideas on reporting the news.
Jack, what made you decide to go into the sports area rather than the hard news area?
Well, I guess it was a matter of personal preference, plus the bit of the development that I had had since I came into the television business to start with. I began back in the days, the dark ages, I suppose, when everybody on the staff at the station where I worked was a jack of all trades, where you did everything. I began to gravitate toward sports programs at that time because, frankly, nobody else wanted to do them, and I did. And so I was well along the way into the sports area, I suppose, before ever the specialization in sports and the specialization in news really began to really gel on the local level the way it has in recent years. So it was a very normal thing, I suppose, for me to turn to the sports area rather than the news area. I'm glad I did. I think there's a variety in both, but I think there's an interest and an excitement and a ever-changing kind of atmosphere that goes in the sports area that I particularly enjoy and appreciate.
Hi, Wayne.
How you doing, George?
You're fairly new here at Channel 2. Can you give us an idea of your college background?
Well, I graduated from a college in Ohio, Kent State University, and from there I got into the newspaper business in Akron, Ohio, which is a good way to learn fundamentals in reporting. Newspaper is really a good training, good basic reporting skills, and it helped me a lot to get into TV.
Where was your first job?
My first job in television was in Columbus, Ohio, at an ABC affiliate there, doing basically street reporting, a little bit of sports here and there, but mostly just street reporting.
What would you say is your most difficult assignment?
I think a major spot news story, a major breaking crime story or major accident story, something like this, because You have to think on your feet a lot, do a lot of running around, so to speak, being in a couple different places at once to try to get the drama of it, all the facts you need, a lot of hustling around to make sure you don't miss anything. It's not like a news conference situation where everything's sort of laid out for you, prescribed, you know what's going to happen. In a spot news, breaking type story, you don't know what's going to happen. You have to think on your feet, hustle around, get everything you need, and think ahead what it's going to look like finally in the finished product. I think the spot news story, to me, is one of the toughest.
Many students have asked me from time to time how they could break into radio or television. And I always recommend against majoring in broadcasting in a college or university or going to a broadcast school. True, you'll learn many of the basics that you'll need, but you're working in kind of a laboratory situation, and it's not the real world. And much of what you learn, you'll have to unlearn once you're out on the job. I recommend usually instead that if you go to college or university, you major in journalism or liberal arts, because the more you know about more things, the better off you'll be, because when you're in broadcasting, radio or television news, you'll be dealing with a lot of different kinds of situations and subjects and people, and the broader your background, the better equipped you'll be. Of course, I would suggest that you take a few voice and diction courses, because you must know how to speak properly in radio and television, but almost anybody can be taught to speak properly. And most important of all, and this may sound very basic, but please learn to read and write. Unfortunately, too many students are graduated from colleges and universities who don't have that, who cannot simply read and write, and therefore fail in this profession just because of that.
Thank you very much, Debbie.
Thank you.
In my 25 years of news, the last 6 of which have been in television news, I've come up with what I consider to be a list of priorities to becoming a good newsman or a good newswoman. Many of them you've already heard from my other colleagues. A willingness to work and to work hard, good training, and an ability to get along with people. To these, however, I would add several others. A sense of integrity, honesty, fairness, and decency. And I would also say that if you are inclined to cut corners, to manipulate people for your own conveniences, then the news is not for you, especially if you are not blessed with the thick skin.
Well, we certainly hope that during the past half an hour we've given you some kind of insight as to what goes on behind the scenes in the day-to-day, what we might call nuts and bolts operation of a commercial television station. It wasn't meant to be discouraging. We certainly hope it was not. It was meant to be stimulating. We certainly hope that it was. If we could leave you aspiring television journalists with a parting thought, it might be this. For your own sake, don't be afraid to start at or near the bottom. Don't try to come into a major top 20 market and expect to get a job at a salary that, well, some people attain only after years of being in the business. Go to a small town. We all started there, many of us at newspapers or at radio stations, and learn from the bottom up. Your mistakes there won't quite be as noticeable as they are in a major market. But you'll always make mistakes. The idea is to just try to minimize them. Go down there, even if you have to scrub floors or sweep them at least. Run the coffee for the news director and hold the announcer's hand if he has a sore throat. If it gets sore enough, you might get to do a newscast sometime, and that might be just the springboard your career requires. So, the best of luck to each and every one of you in your budding careers in commercial television.
Okay, first job.
I worked in Cincinnati. I worked on the assignment desk. I answered phones and made coffee.
Very good. You made good coffee. Coffee's still around too, right?
Wasn't that good?
My first job, I was in WHAG. Now it was 25 Alive out in Hagerstown. I was filling in doing sports, and I went to the news. Hey, you know what? You got a news position? Oh, I'll do it. Are you kidding me? I said, yeah. You start tomorrow. And that was it.
And you never turned back.
I never turned back.
So while the philosophies haven't changed, the technology certainly has. Of course, film. That's no longer here. Now everything we shoot goes out onto an SD card or sometimes right onto your phone.
What are you talking about? The cameras we now use are much smaller, and those typewriters you saw, they may be museum pieces somewhere. Just as our community is much more diverse, so's our team.
We hope you enjoyed this look back and a look behind the scenes at WMAR. We've been here with you for nearly 75 years, and we're looking forward to at least another 75 more.